In tonight's episode of Emmerdale, village icon Kim Tate, Claire King, and Joe Tate, Ned Porteous, clashed over her plans to leave home farm to Lydia Dingle, Karen Blick, in her will. After learning of Kim's plans in an earlier installment of the ITV soap, Joe initially planned to frame Lydia for stealing from the matriarch. But deciding against his scheme, he confronted Kim and told her he was heartbroken after discovering the contents of her will. She refused to back down, telling Joe her son Jamie Tate, Alexander Lincoln, would be furious if home farm ended up in his hands. Though Jamie was last seen on screen in 2021 portrayed by actor Alexander, 32, the character first debuted in 1996 and was played by various child actors until his first departure from the show in 1999. Following Kim's mention of her son, fans rushed to social media to predict bosses are planting the seeds for Jamie's return. One said, "Jamie Tate mention." Another wrote, "Is his return looming?" And a third added, "I think he might come back to help Kim get rid of Joe and Graham." Alexander previously confessed he's had conversations with soap bosses about a comeback, but that it's never been the right time. He told The Sun, "It's a conversation that I've had quite a few times. At the moment I'm quite enjoying this vibe and writing, so we'll see what happens in the future. I loved it there. It was the first place I worked at, and I try to keep up as much as I can. I'm still friends with the cast. I still see Lawrence, Rob. A little bit, not as much as I'd like to, as I don't go up north that much anymore. But I do speak to quite a few people." The silence inside home farm was never truly quiet. It lingered. In the walls. In the floorboards. In the memories that refused to fade. And tonight, in Emmerdale, that silence was about to shatter. Chapter 1. The discovery that changed everything. Joe Tate stood in the grand hallway, staring at the portrait above the staircase. Generations of Tates had lived here, ruled here, fought here, and now, he might lose it all. The will had been clear, brutally clear. Home farm, his home, his legacy, was not going to him. It was going to Lydia Dingle. The thought still didn't feel real. Chapter 2. A plan born of anger. At first, Joe had reacted the only way he knew how. Strategically. Coldly. If Lydia couldn't be trusted, if her reputation crumbled, then Kim would have no choice but to reconsider. The plan had formed quickly. Frame Lydia for theft. Simple. Effective. Devastating. But something had stopped him. A voice of reason. A moment of doubt. Because deep down, he knew it wouldn't fix what he was really feeling. Chapter 3. The confrontation begins. "You look like you're about to explode." The voice cut through the room like a blade. Kim Tate. She stood at the doorway, composed as ever, her presence commanding. Joe turned slowly. "You knew I'd find out." Kim raised an eyebrow. "I assumed you would eventually. And you didn't think to tell me?" "It's my will," she said simply. Not a group discussion. Chapter 4. The breaking point. Joe laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You gave it to Lydia." "I did." "Lydia?" Kim's expression didn't change. "Yes." The calmness of her response only fueled his anger. "It's my birthright," Joe snapped. "That house, it's everything." Chapter 5. Memories of a past that won't let go. Joe stepped forward, his voice tightening. "I grew up here. Every memory I have that matters, it's tied to this place." His gaze flickered around the room. "You don't understand what you're taking away from me." Kim watched him carefully. "I understand perfectly. Then how can you do this?" Chapter 6. Kim's ruthless logic. "Because I have to think beyond you," Kim replied coolly. Joe's jaw clenched. "This family will tear itself apart over this house," she continued. "I've seen it happen before. And Lydia won't. She doesn't want power," Kim said. "That's exactly why she's the safest choice." Chapter 7. The name that changed everything. Joe shook his head in disbelief. "You're making a mistake." Kim's eyes narrowed slightly. "No," she said. "I'm avoiding one." She paused. "Jamie would be furious if I gave it to you." The name hung in the air. Heavy. Unavoidable. Jamie Tate. Chapter 8. A ghost returns. Joe stiffened. "Jamie," he repeated. "He's not even here." "No," Kim agreed. "But that doesn't mean he won't be." Something shifted. A possibility. A threat. Or both. Chapter 9. Seeds of doubt. Later that evening, the village buzzed quietly with speculation. Names carried through conversations. Whispers turned into theories. Could Jamie come back? Would he? And if he did, what would that mean for everyone else? Chapter 10. Watching from the shadows. From a distance, Graham Forster observed the tension unfold. He didn't need to intervene. Not yet. Because sometimes, the most effective move was to let people destroy each other. Chapter 11. Lydia's unwanted future. Unaware of the full storm brewing around her, Lydia moved through home farm with quiet purpose. Cleaning. Organizing. Caring. She didn't see herself as its future owner. She didn't even want to. But Kim had chosen her. And that meant something. Even if she didn't fully understand why. Chapter 12. Joe's Dilemma. Back in his room, Joe paced. The anger hadn't faded. But it had changed. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about being replaced. Overlooked. Cast aside. Chapter 13. The Family Legacy. Home farm wasn't just a building. It was history. Power. Identity. And losing it felt like losing a part of himself. Chapter 14. The Question That Lingers. Why her? Joe asked the empty room. There was no answer. Not yet. Chapter 15. The Calm Before the Storm. Outside, the night settled over the village. But nothing felt settled. Not really. Because this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Chapter 16. A Future Unwritten. Somewhere out there, Jamie Tate existed. A name. A possibility. A wild card waiting to be played. And if he returned, everything would change. Chapter 17. Kim's Final Word. Back in the living room, Kim stood alone. Unshaken. Unmoved. She had made her decision. And she would not be bullied into changing it. No matter who stood against her. Epilogue. The house always wins. Home farm had seen it all. Love. Betrayal. War. And it would see it again. Because no one ever truly owned it. They just fought for it. And in the end, the house always won.